What's up? What's going on, guys? Drew Danger here. Another episode of KOD. We are representing some Rocky Balboa vibes today. Some of young Adonis Creed. We are excited. And in the blue corner, we have Rican Ranger. In the yellow corner, we have Lady Laura. And in the gold, awesome special guest spot, we have Stryfe the Warrior. We're going to kick this off right, and we're going to do it the best way we can. So let's get ready.
Beat this guy. You need speed.
You don't have it.
Your knees can't take the pound. So hard running is out. And you got arthritis in your neck. And you've got calcium deposits on most of your joints. So sparring is out.
Sounds familiar.
That's
so
right.
What we'll be calling on is good old-fashioned blunt force trauma, horsepower, heavy-duty cast iron, power driving punches that will have to hurt so much they'll rattle his ancestors. Every time you hit him with a shot, it's got to feel like he tried kissing the express train.
I know who that is.
Let's start building some hurting bombs.
So let's do it right. These are mine. That's what I use. They're very nice on your hand. So here we go.
That's the joint right there.
I love it.
The reveal.
Oh man. But wait, there's more.
Of course.
Nice.
Classic.
Nice,
Drew. Never
Awesome.
let with the drip.
Yay. I love it.
Yeah, fun, guys, before we get started. So we are here. We're excited. And we got Stryfe the Warrior hanging out with us. And I am going to pass it over to Stryfe the Warrior and tell us a little bit like Mr. Rogers. What's going on today, children?
It's been all right. It's been a pretty good Saturday. Had Taekwondo class early in the morning. As I mentioned before, I kind of been talking about it both in my live streams, the community. I got my first stripe on my white belt. That's where I'm at currently right now. So I'm going on a month of training officially. So did that. Ran to the post office, waited an hour like you usually do at the post office. Did shoulders at the gym. Did some working out here at home too with some VR cardio, and now I'm here. Oh, that is a very lovely jacket. That dude, man. So my friend, as I mentioned off stream my friend got me this shirt. Ken Cole, another wonderful YouTuber you guys should check out, especially if you like Karate Kid, Cobra Kai content as well. So
awesome, Stryfe. Awesome. Rican, what is going on? How's things going?
Everything's good. I'm getting a little bit of lag on this side. I apologize if there's any delays going on.
No, you look good over here. It's on your end, probably. It's good over here. Yeah, you're good. You're not short out. And Lady Laura.
Oh, I'm doing well. I went and I played cards with my grandma, and she tells everybody hi. And,
hi, Grandma.
She is awesome. She's 84. And we still play cards. She still drives, and so she's doing very well. She wanted to tell everyone hi.
Hey, Grandma, how's it going? And guys, I don't have anything exciting. I was just talking with a bunch of people over a situation which we all know, and I'm not even going to give it attention, but I should say this glove's for you, but I'm going to leave it there and go from there, guys. But Laura, I almost forgot. D's not for danger, but R is for Rocky Balboa. Because that's who represented today. Philadelphia's favorite son, the Philadelphia Slugger, the Italian Stallion, the Impossible Man, Rocky Balboa.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about? Sylvester Stallone's. Well, let me be honest. Rocky's second for me because Rambo is actually my favorite Stallone character. So Rambo was my favorite.
The Rambos are good. The show.
I love Rambo. John Rambo was my guy, and I liked Marion Cobretti, also known as Cobra, as well, and Lincoln Hawk from Over the Top, and Ray Tango from Tango and Cash, and I loved Gabriel Cash, of course. So,
Did you like Dredd?
Of course, I love Dredd.
Yeah, I like Dredd too.
Dredd was cool. Stallone is an icon, but it all started with a very young Sylvester Stallone, reaching back to 75, 76 era, going back to a early Philadelphia, and a young Sylvester Stallone who had dreams of making his own movie and own idea. Originally, it was, well, maybe somebody else, but Sylvester Stallone, after putting this thing together, said, it's got to be me. And he said, hey, you want this deal, studio? Because he wrote that awesome script. First, we got to get to that. He wrote that script. He blacked out all his windows. He got in his creative mode. And I mean, most people take years to write a script. He took weeks to put this thing together. And then he wrote it like lightning quick. And he had it together, completed. And he took it down and he said, I'm here to do some acting. So he tried out for some parts. And he said, well, I do writing. And they said, really? I said, well, if you got anything you write, come in and show it to us. He's like, actually, I have something. And they looked at it and said, oh, wow. I said, oh, we'll pay you for this. And he said, well, here's the deal. The money's not really the issue. The issue is this. Yes, here's the script, but I got to play the lead character. And they said, no. They said, no, Ryan O'Neal, James Caan. They went through several people. You can't do it. And he said, no. I can do this. And so they kept throwing money at him. They kept calling him. It got up to over $200,000 in money to do this part until they finally said, yeah. They said, but okay, you're going down with the ship if this sinks, but we'll give it to you. So he said, all right. So he had this vision and he had this plan and he had this budget, and out comes a very young Carl Weathers, because they were supposed to have actual boxing people be Apollo Creed, but things did not work out. And so Carl came in and he kind of lied. He said, yeah, I boxed a little bit. No, Carl played for the Raiders, the Oakland Raiders. He did not box, but he said, I could do something. But luckily he was athletic enough and quick enough to figure out how to make that work. And, at first he was working with Stallone. He had no idea who he was. And he was reading with him. He's like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And he's looking around like, who is this guy? And he's like, that's the writer and the star of the movie. And he said, oh, and he's like, and he thought that was funny. He's like, you know what? This guy, I think he's going to work out. So they stuck him in that role. So once they had those two down, the rest kind of spoke for itself. The hardest part was actually Adrian. From what they talked about, Adrian was the most difficult spot because they actually had other people for the part. And so it didn't work out with the other actresses that they wanted, almost did. But Talia Shire, who is related to Francis Ford Coppola, actually, doing The Godfather and different things like that. And she was around and people knew her. And they said, well, why don't you have Talia come in? So she was in The Godfather. Okay, we'll kind of check her out, and, she came in, she was known for being, this actress. And so to play, Adrian, she had to be a little different. So she showed that and they thought that she really had something special read with Stallone. So you had Adrian, and then, Burgess Meredith kind of comes into the picture, and so you've got Mickey, so you've got the trainer. So everything just started to kind of come together. You got Burt Lancaster coming in, so Burt Young, sorry. You got him coming in and he was an essential part too, because, Paulie, he plays his part very well. So you've got everything, all the pieces kind of floating, and now you can begin your production. So that's a quick little history run on Rocky and the start of it, the underdog story. the story of a movie that was destined to fail and became one of the biggest movies, if not the biggest movie of the American cinema, because it took home so many awards and shattered it and got number one slot place for so long. And it changed the game on independent films to this day. And surprisingly, the next year was followed by George Lucas jumping in this little movie called Star Wars, which also changed the independent game behind it. So you had the two most crushing movies come out around a year next to each other and changed everything. And that's what's awesome about it. And to be a guy that wrote it and starred in it and became really innovative with a lot of ideas, right? And one man is the most craziest thing, and that's the thing. Sylvester Stallone set a trend that can never be matched. I mean, you can't match this guy. This guy does it all. And you guys know about him in the gym. He's a monster in the gym to this day. He looks incredible. And at his age, I mean, I can't even say that. He just looks, he could beat half of us, with what he does. His will is unbreakable. His style is impeccable, and who can match Sylvester Stallone in that? And it's just like, had it not been for Sylvester, number one, the action genre that we all love that's coming up never would have happened the way that it did. It wouldn't have opened the doors for Arnold Schwarzenegger as far as action movies go. So no Jean-Claude Van Damme, no Steven Seagal. Yeah. I mean, it goes on. No Dolph Lundgren, especially Dolph Lundgren, because Dolph Lundgren was in Rocky IV. So, Predator wouldn't have been the same. I mean, it goes on and on. So we owe a lot to Sylvester Stallone. And so we're very thankful and very grateful for everything that he has given us to making our childhoods fantastic. I was there in the late 80s. Still living in the heyday of Stallone, and it was pretty fantastic. One of my first Halloween costumes that I really, really remember was Cobra. I was Cobra for Halloween, so Sylvester Stallone and Cobra. I wanted a match in my mouth, but my grandmother refused to get me a match. I threw a fit, got a spanking in the store, and I ended up with a toothpick. So that's what happened with that. So I had the toothpick. I'll take it, painted red on the end. Who knew? And I just kind of made it work. And so Sylvester Stallone and I go way, way back. Got a million stories about him, but enough of my nonsense. I've been jibber jabbering over here, and I'm going to pass it over. We'll just go in a little circle thing. I'll go to my guy Stryfe. We'll circle back, and we'll hit Laura. Then we'll go to Reek and Ranger, and we'll see what's going on. Guys, share some things about Rocky.
Man, so for me, I think the first Rocky film I ever saw was probably Rocky IV. I don't remember what age, but I know it was before high school because both my freshman and sophomore year, I got really, really, really into Rocky. As much as I was, I'm into Cobra Kai now. That's how obsessive I was with Rocky. So, I was very excited when they put out those two Rocky games back in the PS2 era where they had Rocky and Rocky Legends. And, not to mention a few years after the fact, I was also excited to see that they were coming out with Rocky Balboa, which was like the first new film they had done in about 16 years. So I have a lot of deep ties with the franchise as far as being a fan of it, of course. So I will say I didn't get into Creed, though, until, when did I first watch Creed? I want to say maybe a couple of years ago, before Creed 3 came out. I watched the films, which I thought they were really great love letter. I will even go on to say that I thought Creed 3 was really good when it came out too. I know a lot of people are kind of mixed on that. But yeah, I also, what I also challenge a lot of people too is with movies like that you like when you're younger, definitely watch them when you're older because you get a different perspective. So I felt like the Rocky anthology definitely sums up my life in a way now as more than it was, when I was a teenager, where I was, when I was picked on and I was a nerd, I kind of felt like an underdog. So that's why I related to Rocky so much. So, especially now that also kind of with my own struggle with YouTube and stuff that was going on in my personal life a couple of years ago, I definitely felt like that, felt more like Rocky in that sense and stuff like that too. And So yeah, a lot of fond memories with the franchise. Unfortunately, I rest in peace, Carl Weathers. I almost had an opportunity to meet him a few years ago here in Houston. Unfortunately, just didn't work out uh, like I wanted to. I met a different guest that day, so I was very sad to hear about his passing. Um, and it was really cool seeing because one of the character announcement videos I did on Apollo Creed, a lot of people came and paid their respects to him on that video, which was really really cool. So, but yeah, overall, great franchise. Definitely looking forward to this discussion for sure.
All right, Lady Laura, tell us about Rocky Balboa or Robert Balboa.
I just started watching it, and I'm in Rocky One, and I really like the dynamic between Rocky and Adrian. I just think that's so sweet, um, and I think that's lost on nowadays that they don't present a love like Rocky and Adrian. I love at the end when Rocky wins his fight and he almost didn't win, you know, and he embraces her and she's just like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I just thought that was just beautiful. And I was reading about Sylvester Stallone, and it's really cool because his second son, I forget his name, but has autism. And the reason it's really cool because when I had my my kid Sammy, he has autism, and so I love that they put that in there and they weren't ashamed of that because it's nothing to be ashamed of. And so I was reading about his daughters and just finding out about his life, and it just seems like he's a solid person. Sylvester Stallone, I know he's made some mistakes, but we all do. And so I really appreciated again the love between him and Adrian, and then the story of his actual second son. And so that's what I'm kind of chewing on right now.
Nice.
Okay.
Very
All
nice.
right. Regan
Dig
Ray.
it. Yeah, man. What can I say about Rocky? There's not enough time to sit here and chop up about Rocky Balboa, bro. It's just he is. Um, for me, when I found out later in life, before I go into how much of a fan I am, my dad. There was three things he grew up on, and that was Bruce Lee, Star Wars, and then Rocky. When I found out Rocky was basically a clone of Chuck Wepner, famous boxer, one of the few boxers to knock down Ali,
Mm-hmm.
I did my research. I was like, oh man, this is the Bayonne Bleeder. So being from Bayonne, New Jersey, it was huge. It was like, you know, our PAL, our Midtown school, they had a boxing gym. Our town was kind of like a boxing town, you know what I mean? So um, Rocky hits close to home. It's always iconic for me and it feels like home. So my dad, that was one of the movies that was just always in rotation, along with Moonwalker. If you guys remember the Michael
Mhm.
Jackson movie, Moonwalker,
Yep.
remember that? That was the
Mhm.
time, VHS era, the very first Disney stuff. So Rocky was there too. So it was a time to be alive when that stuff dropped. And I know he went through hell trying to get that script made and then fighting to be in his own movie too. So I know they fought a little bit. Chuck Wepner sued him for some money, I think.
Mhm.
But it's a cool story. You guys should definitely look into Chuck Wepner. He's basically the real life Rocky, and he's from Bayonne, New Jersey. I love the Philly aspect of it because I spent a lot of time in Lehigh Valley too, near Philly. So that whole saga, that whole, from a regional standpoint, I love Rocky to be able. I've driven to the steps. I've ran up the steps. Philly was not too far from where I was at. But for me, it's nothing like the first one. Second one was Apollo. What was the second one? Mr. T was 3,
Yes.
right? The
Mhm.
Russian is my favorite, of course. That's the best one. The Tommy Gun one was okay. I like them all in their own type of way. I do like the reboot where he does the simulated fight with the ball-headed guy, right? And then they fight, I think, the younger guy, which is where that speech was from in the beginning, where he's punching the cows in the meat freezer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was a good remake. I think that one's called Rocky Balboa. That's the 5th one, I think, right? That's when he came back for a while.
Six one, but yeah.
Yeah,
It's called Rocky Balboa.
6.
Yeah, when he gives the speech about life. Too bad we can't bring that video up and play that.
I
when,
could.
You know, when he talks to his son. I forget the speech, but
yeah.
Not how hard you can think, it's how hard you can take and keep moving forward.
Yep.
No, when he talks, if you could take the hits.
Yeah, same speech.
Same speech.
Yeah, it's great. I love that movie. I actually put that as a skit in one of my mixtapes back in the day. That's how much I love Rocky. So, yeah, to answer your question, Drew, I mean, it's really close to home for me. It's an important part of culture, movie culture, pop culture. Where would this world be without Rocky? It's one of the greatest sport movies of all time. Man, and he's just iconic, from Cliffhanger to Assassins, Dread, Tango and Cash. We were saying, like, Sly's got hits, man. I mean, Daylight. I even like Daylight when the tunnel comes down on him and he's getting everybody out. You know what I mean? He's even got low key hits if you like Sly like that. But because of Rocky, I'm such a Sly fan that I support everything he does, man. Tulsa King, him and Arnold, they're like, you know, they're like the Mount Rushmore of this shit to me. You got Arnold, Sly. I mean, who else would you put up there? Bruce Lee.
Bruce Willis.
That's where I'm going to. Bruce Lee was the one that really.
We got one more.
Bruce Willis.
Bad.
Well, Bruce Willis
close. Honorable mention. You know what I'm saying? But we had an action Mount Rushmore, right? I mean,
Arnold.
Arnold's already on there.
Sly is up there.
So for me, I would say Jackie Chan. Because of the crossovers with action.
He was iconic in shaping the whole stunt realm too.
Oh yeah. I mean, look at Rumble. Look at his big crossover here, Rumble in the Bronx.
Yeah.
That kind of tells you everything. So
yeah. But y'all get what I'm saying. You know, that's always, it's like top 5 dead or alive when you talk about MCs. It's always a perspective in how they sonically were raised. You know what I mean? So to say Rocky is not one of the most important movies of all time, I'd say at least top 25 movies of all time, bro.
Mm-hmm.
At least you got to put Rocky in all genres. Like, it's one of the top 25 movies of all time.
Oh yeah.
So if you haven't seen Rocky, or I don't know what rock you live under, but it's just, you know, it's a magical series, man. It really is. The underdog story, like Drew said, love, like Laura said, the classic, you know, it's just, you can't. Good American cinema, you know. So, I keep going if you want, but you know.
May I say something? A little fun fact.
Go ahead.
My niece Adrian was named after Adrian. Yep, I have a niece. She's 35, and she was named after her. Her name's Adrian.
Huh. Nice.
It's very cool.
Yeah,
that's very, very cool. I was gonna say, guys, real quick, I have met Carl Weathers, and he was very, very cool.
That's awesome. Great actor.
He was very neat. Yeah, he was a very neat individual. Now when I met him, he had like a white suit coat on with like a white t-shirt, and he had like some white jeans with white Converse on, and he had these aviators, and his hair was white at the time, so it was just like white when you saw him. And, you know, I went over and I said, it's okay if I talk to Mr. Weathers. I was talking to his publicist people, like, and he like kind of just moved them over and was like, I'm right here, young man. You know, and I was just like, oh, okay, I'll just walk over there then. And, you know, he really took a liking to my son. And what's funny is Luke had seen Rocky and he kept going like this all the time. You know, when Rocky hits the steps, and he would stretch his arms out. And Luke had this thing where he kept doing it. And when he met Carl, he went like this. He loved it, So he's like, "You got to take him to the steps." I said, "Yeah, we'll go there sometime, and check it out." And that place is popular, Rican. They got security up there. Like, all right, you can take a picture real quick. Go over here. Like it's
they
like
moved the statue though. I think I don't know if it's on the top anymore.
Yeah, it's probably moved. I think it's moved across the street. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's still there, but it's not where it used to be, like in the movie.
Yeah.
I think.
Right.
Quote me, but
no, I think you're right. Yeah, they moved it.
And how many people hit those library steps? Because it's a library. You hit those library steps all the time. People run there all the time. So
go see how many TikToks there are right now. Everybody doing this. Come on, bro.
Taking up off the steps.
You already know. Are we gonna walk through the films? Because I'd love a recap. Do you guys remember all of them?
Oh, I can recap them all. Easily.
Yeah, quickly. We should, man.
That's what we're gonna do. I got questions, and I'm sure Stryfe. I know you always got a plan. So always. So
I can recap the anthology really quickly. So of course, Rocky won. He's a club fighter, also a collector for a loan shark. One day he gets picked out of a hat, essentially to face the current champion, Apollo Creed, after Mackley Green injures his hand. Despite having people not having faith in him, such as his trainer Mickey and his friend Paulie, they eventually come around, and Rocky, of course, develops this romance with Adrian, Paulie's sister, the one person who does believe in him, and he kind of wants to make it a plan to where if he can go the distance with Creed, he knows that he can prove to everybody he's not just a bum from the neighborhood. So, of course, the fight happens. He's happy with having gone the distance and not having been knocked out by Creed. So he loses very narrowly by a split decision. Rocky 2 picks up right where Rocky 1 left off, and though both Apollo and Rocky had agreed to a rematch, or excuse me, not do a rematch at first. Apollo later changes his mind and wants a rematch. Rocky, though, is okay with retiring. A running joke that he retires every movie. So he's okay with retiring at first, and marries Adrian. They're expecting their first and only child. Rocky struggles with accepting life after boxing and realizes that he doesn't have a choice. So that's kind of where things get complicated with Adrian, because she's working at a pet shop while pregnant, and doesn't want him to fight. And of course, this creates strain to where she delivers the baby, I think prematurely, slips into a coma. Mickey tries to kind of like be on his side and like try to talk him out of it. So when Adrian finally wakes up, she tells him that, gives him his blessing, say, "Hey, I want you to win this fight." So Rocky trains harder than ever, fights with Apollo, almost going the distance one time. I forget which round it is, but early in the fight, he says, "I'm not going down anymore." And from that point on, he does not get knocked down until he throws the final punch at Apollo, and Apollo, realizing that there was no stopping Rocky, kind of just, accepts the defeat, congratulates him on being champ. They went, and then of course, Rocky wins. Rocky 3 happens a few years later. Rocky has defended his title many times over. However, given how vicious the beating he took from Apollo, in the words of Mickey, he tries to protect him. So this new and up-and-comer named Clubber Lang, fresh out of prison, challenges Rocky to a fight, and Rocky, not realizing that he can't go toe-to-toe with this guy, loses the fight. And of course, right after this, his trainer passes away from a heart attack, and lo and behold, who is now in his corner? Apollo Creed. Apollo Creed, has gives him a motivating speech, takes him back to basics, trains him to California, and completely revamps his style from going from brawler to an outside fighter, because both him and Tony, Apollo's trainer, realize that he can maybe last 7 rounds, but he needs to put away Clubber quick. So
there is no tomorrow, right?
Exactly. Yeah. There is no tomorrow. So Rocky has the rematch with Clubber. During, I believe, the second round, he realizes that Clubber's starting to tire out and adopts a rope-a-dope strategy. The third round goes and knocks him out. The only fight where Rocky doesn't fight somebody through the entirety of the 15 rounds or 12 rounds or whatever it is. knocks out Rocky, and the one he returns the favor that Apollo promised to do, where they have a third and decisive fight behind closed doors, where years later it's not revealed who won until in Creed. Of course, Rocky 4, Rocky's still the champion at this point. Ivan Drago comes over from Russia. They want to challenge the best that America has to offer, which is Rocky Balboa. Apollo also can't accept this, and maybe it's due to pride or anything like that. So he convinces Rocky to train him one last time for this exhibition fight. But given that he's been out of shape, and of course Ivan Drago using steroids, Ivan not only defeats Apollo but kills him in the ring. And to avenge his friend, Rocky relinquishes the title and fights Ivan Drago in an exhibition match where he trains even more grueling harder than ever, almost kind of completely forgets his style of what Apollo taught him, and slugs it out with Ivan, and manages to knock Ivan out in the final round, and of course avenging his friend Apollo. Rocky 5 picks up right after Rocky 4 left off, though it's clear that Rocky has sustained some considerable damage from the fight and is advised to not box anymore. While they were away in Russia, Paulie accidentally gave power of attorney to their accountant. The Balboas are pretty much swindled out of their money, have to start all over and back in the streets of Philly, where they move back into their old house. George Washington Duke, a promoter who wants to make money off of Rocky with Union Kane, the paper champion at the time, fails at doing so, but is able to get his claws into Tommy Gunn, Rocky's new student that he took under his wing. And then, of course, Tommy eventually gets a shot at champion, becomes champion while kind of leaving Rocky in the dust. This also allows time for Rocky to re-strengthen his bond with the son, who's been kind of neglecting since he's training Tommy Gunn. So Tommy decides to finally challenge Rocky to a street fight. Rocky wins the fight, of course, and proves that he could still, dish it out in the ring, so to speak. Years later, we get Rocky Balboa, of course, which at this point, Adrian unfortunately has passed away due to cancer. So Rocky still has a strained relationship with the son. There is a simulated fight between the current champion Mason Dixon, who is in this era of decline of boxing being declining because there's no contenders like they were back in the 90s and 80s anymore. So there's a simulated fight where Mason Dixon is predicted to lose against Rocky Balboa. Rocky Balboa still feels like he has one last fight in him. Is sought out by Mason's camp and agrees to this exhibition fight. So during this time, he re-strengthens his bond with his son again, and wants to prove that just because he may be getting up on years doesn't mean that he doesn't have any fight left in him. So even though Rocky doesn't win the fight, he still proves to himself that he can go the distance and wins by a split decision, not only earning respect from the fans, but also putting over Mason Dixon as a credible champion. So yeah, that's the Rocky anthology. We can get it to Creed too if we're still counting that. But yeah, so
yeah.
So yeah, Creed. So years later, after this fight, about 9 years, it's revealed that Apollo Creed had an illegitimate son named Adonis Creed, and Adonis wants to fight, and also in kind of like parallel to Rocky, where Rocky was a boxer but wanted to work in the corporate world. Adonis came from the corporate world and wanted to become a boxer. So it's a kind of very nice parallel where even though he's advised by Apollo's widow Marianne to not fight because having to have care for her husband's injuries so long, Adonis still seeks out Rocky, who reveals that Apollo won the third fight behind closed doors, which is also kind of ties back to why he wanted to challenge Ivan Drago to champion. So Adonis is still kind of fighting over this, being in his father's shadow, and for not forgiving him for having an affair with Marianne and all these other things. And after developing a relationship with his neighbor Bianca, who's his Adrian, so to speak, Adonis begins to finally listen to Rocky's advice, especially when Rocky is diagnosed with cancer, and they both promise each other the fight. So Adonis is called out by Ricky Conlon, who is the new champion, for claiming that you may be Creed by name, but you're not Creed by fighter. So, of course, Adonis almost manages to beat Conlon, but it's a split decision, just like the first Rocky movie. But Adonis now proves that he's worthy of being a Creed and not being a mistake. A couple years later, Creed 2 happens, where Ivan Drago, wanting to avenge himself from the rematch, he trains his son Victor Drago, where this scrupulous promoter, which I forget his name, promotes this match where right after Adonis becomes world heavyweight champion, and he also, of course, proposes to Bianca, and they're having a child as well. So Rocky advises him against the fight, but Adonis takes it anyway. He gets severely hurt and retains his title by disqualification. Going down this deep, darkened place and realizing that, he still has some fear about doing something that his father couldn't do, was beat a Drago. Rocky reconciles with Adonis. They train again, though instead of training in the brutal winter, this time they train in the heats of a desert, where fighters are reborn, something that Spider Rico also always told Rocky, which is why he trained in the desert. And Adonis manages to not only defeat Victor, but also kind of inadvertently help Victor and Ivan Drago repair their relationship, because Ivan this time does something that Rocky couldn't do and throw in the towel. And having made peace with all of this, Rocky introduces his daughter Amara to Apollo Creed at their gravestone. At his gravestone. And then, of course, Creed 3, the latest entry, it's revealed Adonis had a childhood friend named Dame Anderson, another boxing prospect at this point. But because of Dame's history, they got into some trouble where Dame pulled a gun on somebody that was attacking Adonis in self-defense, and he went to prison after having so many things against his record. Flashback to present day, Adonis gets his win over Ricky Conlon and retires as champion. Is training this new boxer. Dame eventually gets out of prison, seeks out Adonis, and slowly kind of tries to pressure him and saying, "Hey, you owe me this favor. You owe me this title fight." To where he even sabotages Victor Drago, who is Adonis's friends now, force him to pull out of the fight by attacking his hand. So they kind of do this whole underdog story with Dame, who fights illegally, but manages to win the champion. Turns out that Dame lied and planned this whole attack with Victor Drago. The two come at odds, and Adonis realizes in order to finally confront his past, he has to fight here in the present. And kind of similar to Rocky Balboa, he trains in some very methods to kind of work around his weaknesses, and eventually defeats his friend Dame, as they two kind of patch up their differences and realize that they both made mistakes, and Adonis becomes a champion once again. So it's a very, very crazy anthology, but definitely worth checking out, to say the least. So
good job, bro. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Wow, cool.
Good job, bro.
Yeah.
try to condense it as much as I could.
Yeah, no, that was good. I mean, they're all great movies in their own right. You know what I mean? It's just some
Right.
better than others.
Mhm.
Creed 2,
answered
I
the
wasn't
question.
really a fan of.
Yeah.
But 1 and 3 were good. The
For
Creed
sure.
Creed 1 was my favorite. Out of the Rockies, definitely the first one, the sixth one, the Russian one, of course. I like the Mr. T one. Then I would probably say the Tommy Gun one last.
That's fair.
So everybody got their ranking, but I love them all.
For sure.
So
Who's next for ranking? You kicked yours down?
I don't think Laura's seen them all yet.
Yeah, she's only seen the first one, so she. Okay.
I will say something about Rocky 5. I think a lot of people typically agree with that. The other thing too is that had that film not been cut, there was like a lot of things that were cut out of that film. That film actually would have been a lot better. Like the ending fight where Tommy Gunn just gets arrested.
Yeah.
And there's a director's cut that's floating out there, and I think Sylvester might be finally working on it. The ending was where Rocky helps him up and they shake hands and realize their beef is over. Now Tommy still gets arrested, but one of the cops asks him for his autograph, and that kind of ties up Tommy's arc, where he's like, he finally gets the respect that he wanted, because even though he lost to Rocky, he's now still a validated champion in the people's eyes. So kind of like what happened to Mason Dixon.
Right.
And then there was another scene that was a few other scenes that were cut. I think Adrian's speech to Rocky was a little bit longer. There was also this other scene where little Marie, before she was recast in Rocky Balboa, is actually on the streets as a bum, as what Rocky kind of predicted. So it kind of had like a little bit of a darker tone and whatnot too. So, and she's actually in the final cut very briefly, but yeah. So, but no, I agree. I kind of agree with that ranking for sure. So
Yeah.
It's cool.
No, that's cool. Did you guys know that did you see the deleted scene for Rocky Balboa Stryfe and Rican where he actually wins?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that one.
Yeah. They let Rocky win and they throw him the belt. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah,
There's also the one scene I wish they hadn't cut out was where Paulie breaks down crying right after he gets mad about being left off or being kicked out of work or fired or retired or whatever. And that's why the cut seems very abrupt, because he's walking out of the restaurant and then he tells Rocky, "Hey, it takes a lot of guts getting back in that ring." Had they left the scene in, he just cries, or he just admits like, "Hey, I was a terrible brother. I was a terrible this. Like, I treated my sister bad. She's gone. I treated you bad, and you're still here and whatnot." And Rocky kind of forgives him for all the transgressions that he's done in the past and whatnot. And they kind of make, and that's where Paulie moves back in with him, and they kind of make amends and whatnot. There's also another scene where they realize Rocky can't spar anymore, where he's actually sparring with somebody. And then Paulie is still very encouraging during this training too. So they kind of did Paulie dirty in the final cut. So yeah.
That was one of my questions, actually.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I beat you to the punch.
No. Right. That just means we're on the same flow and great minds think alike.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Now, if I go like this, will you feel it?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, we're twins then. There we go.
Yeah.
We're matching. No, I was going to ask you guys what you thought the best Rockies were, and I guess I'm the only one that didn't answer. So let me answer that one. I was always big on Rocky 3 because it was when Apollo and Rocky worked together.
Yep.
And that's when the friendship really comes together, and you see some awesome moments just of them doing what they do, training, running together, jumping through the water together. They do the whole thing. And it was really beautiful to see them kind of like take that together. And in that movie, you had Rocky take two styles and put them together, and he had to fight right-handed. Remember, he had to fight right-handed. So they said, use that right hand. He can now do both. He could do right and he could do left, perfectly with speed. And then he trimmed down to make him even faster. So I thought that was cool because remember, Mickey had him hold the hand back originally. That was his plan. It was like, hold it back and hit him with the right hand. And then we're going to bring the left in later. So Apollo switched it up and said, we're going to teach you how to use both and make you fast, know? So you're going to have heavy hits going to the body, but you're going to have quick headshots. You're going to have quick hands, and we're going to really put that together. So I thought, Apollo and Duke, or Tommy, whichever name you want to use, really put, something special together. And then we get that legendary fight, at the end between Rocky and Apollo. And then it goes to that painting right when the bell hits. And I'm just like, that was awesome because I just really liked the whole thing. So if I would say that that's number one for me. And then the original Rocky, I would say is number two for me. I thought that, of course, is the intro. Him and Spider Rico was incredible. And I would say after that, Rocky Balboa. I thought Rocky Balboa was amazing. And I felt, because I was never a fan of Rocky 5. And I felt that Rocky Balboa, and that's what Stallone has said, Rocky Balboa is technically, realistically Rocky 5, because he was like, that's what I felt should have really happened going into that. And I thought Rocky Balboa was really neat. It had one of the most incredible speeches you can ever get. It dealt with him and his son, what his son thought about him, how his son was kind of coming at life. And, it dealt with the situation with Paulie. It summed up Adrian. It kind of showed Adrian's legacy, the restaurant, where you got Spider Rico in there washing dishes, staring down Paulie all the time. And Paulie's trying to talk trash to it. I was like, I don't know, man, you might not want to say that to Spider, So, and, I know they had the funeral of Spider as well. that was another scene that was shot, and they did that, and I think
Right.
Yeah.
That was deleted from Creed 2. Yeah.
Yeah, they did do that. That came up later in Creed 2 is where they put that in, because Rico was there going to the ring, prayed for Rocky. So I couldn't remember if it was Creed 1 or Creed 2 and it was 2 where he did the funeral for Rico.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Spider was cool because Spider, in a lot of ways was also helping Rocky in a lot of ways too, and was involved with Rocky. So it's like you kind of had, and then here comes Duke, here comes Tommy back, right? Ready to train Rocky again. This time he's not spitting and throwing a towel, right? Because he was spitting out. So he's out there. So, and then his son comes to train, and Paulie's there to train. So it's like you got everybody all together, and then you have little Marie's son, and then she's around. So it's like you kind of have this whole full circle thing with Rocky in that movie. And, they let Mason the Lion Dixon win because of his speed towards the end. But part of me just wanted Rocky just to get that one. So I like that deleted scene where they gave him the belt back. And, I thought that was cool. But the other way's fine too. So, and plus Stallone went head to head with this guy in sparring matches when they were taping. So that made it more authentic. So I was just like, that one right there. Here's what I'll say too. I like Creed, and I get that he's angry, but he's too angry. I was like, man, he's just too angry. I gave him a pass the first movie. I gave him a pass. By the second movie, I was like, take it down. Take it down, and you got to be smarter about this. So it's kind of a love-hate thing with me and Adonis, because there's something, Apollo, he was very polished, he was very clean, very polished. He was like the people's champion, we're in America, like that was Apollo. Rocky, he's more street, but there's a very soft side to Rocky, and the way he deals with people is very kind, and very. And then you got Adonis out here, and he's just angry, and he's just yelling, and he's hitting everybody, and I'm just like, weren't you hanging out with Rocky? Like, don't go around hitting people. What are you doing? So. So I was a little harsh with Creed a little bit, and I still liked it, but I was just a little harsh because it was a little hip hop to me. So it was a little hard, and this is something a lot of Rocky fans have said. It's a little, because there wasn't the classic music, and there wasn't, so they kind of put their own twist on it, which I get, but it was just a little hard because I was like, okay, I'm into it, but the music is kind of taking me out to it. And then his girlfriend's music, Bianca's music, I didn't know what to think about that. Like that was a little bit beyond me. And, so I was like, I don't know, but I still tried. I tried. So it was cool. It was cool. So I gave it that. I did want Adonis to eventually wear Rocky's colors. I wanted him to mix Apollo and Rocky's colors together in some formation. I really wanted him to do that because it's kind of like you got both those guys pumping through this kid. So I kind of wanted that. Who knows? We might get it later. So those are I love all the movies except for Rocky 5. I was never too big on it. Again, I haven't watched it since 93 probably. I haven't watched it since then, so I would have to revisit and see Tommy Gunn and everything like that going back to it. I did see the director's cut of Rocky 4. That was actually there's a story. That was actually the night the MS was flaring up really bad for the first time, was when I went to go see Rocky 4, the director's cut. And so I went with the friend, and we went together, and they did the interview with Sylvester Stallone at the beginning. And you guys aren't going to believe this. The projector broke.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The projector, they couldn't fix it. So you had people, not a seat in the place, kind of packed, right? And this projector breaks, and they leave us sitting in the dark for like 20 minutes. So we're sitting there. Everybody's like, what's happening? So I get up and I go and I talk to with another guy, and I got to calm him down because he's like, I'm going to hit somebody. They messed up this moment. I was like, whoa, okay. Take it down. Let's not try to hit anybody. Let's go talk to this guy. So we talked to the manager, and they said, listen, I'm going to go on back to the projector guy, and we're going to see what happens. So he talks to the projectionist, comes back. He said the projector's broke. There's not an extra copy of the movie, so we're going to have to refund everybody. And I said, but this is a one-night only event, so what are we going to do? And they said, well, we can't bring back, Rocky 4. And I just said, all right, everybody, they're getting everybody refunds. And then that's when the MS attack hit. And I remember standing there, I was like, oh. And I was like, uh-oh. And I was like, man, this is feeling kind of weird. So Rocky in some ways kind of saved my life because it started the path of like, I'm not feeling so good and I'm not at work and something happened. I'm at a movie and something happened. So that what kind of led. So Rocky kind of saved my life a little bit on that one. So I had to wait later to see the director's cut. And I did like it. There were some pretty good alternative takes and it kind of a different look at it in a lot of ways. But you did get a lot more time with Rocky and Apollo, which I loved and I thought was great. And the funeral scene was longer, where Rocky really had some deep connection moments at the funeral. Because the original cut, it's kind of quiet, kind of quick. He says a little bit, and then he puts the belt, and he kind of goes. But this one, you get that plus more added to it, and you get a deeper connection. So I was really blown away by that. And no robot. They took that out. Stallone never was a fan of the robot in Rocky 4. So I was like, oh, okay. So I really, really enjoyed that. So I could go on and on with Rocky. So I'm going to go on to the next question really quick. And you'll like this one, guys. Is Paulie really good or is he really bad?
Who?
Paulie.
Rocky. No. Adrian's brother.
Brother-in-law. Adrian's brother. Paulie. The angry one that was always getting in trouble all the time.
I loved his speech. Which one was that in Rocky Balboa? Where he's like, she loved you, Rocco. Remember he breaks down to him?
Yeah. He said, this is depressing. Yeah.
She's like, I treated her like shit. She loved you, Rocco. That was his moment for me in the whole saga. When he broke down and he finally, they had that brother moment. Like, what's your problem? When he used to go see Adrian's grave all the time. And, he gives him the speech to let it go. And that one is the best, I think. It's up there in the top 3. Rocky Balboa has a lot of moments.
Paulie's a good guy for you then.
Yeah. Paulie, I think eventually he became the good guy. He realized he was a yerk off the whole time. You know what I mean? So
remember what he said in Rocky 3.
So I like Paulie as a character. Mick was my guy. You're a bum rock like that. Iconic. You know what I'm saying? Mick was my guy. When Mick died, that was definitely upsetting. But that's how I feel about both of them. I like them both as characters, even Adrian. It's so well written. Those core characters, like without those core characters being so good, I don't know if the saga makes it to 6 movies. You know what I mean? I mean, Rocky carried a lot of it, but his supporting cast was pretty good. So you got to give Paulie some credit. Paulie's dynamic really added the contrast to Adrian. She was the sweetheart, but her brother was, the jerk off. It's like, what do you, you needed that. It was important. So Paulie was important to the series. So definitely a good guy. Even though he played the bad guy sometimes, he's a good guy to me because you need him in the story. And then he had his moment where he basically said he loved his sister. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I love Paulie, man. Definitely.
Stryfe, what do you got?
So it's tough because off the very first few movies, he was abusive towards his sister. He was drunk. He was willing to hit Rocky with a bat. But he had some good shiny moments as well. I mean, he was willing to give Rocky money for a car when he wasn't doing so hot in Rocky 2. Despite how he felt a certain type of way in the beginning of Rocky 3, he was willing to get in the ring with Thunder Lips. I think a lot of people kind of, overlooked that. In Rocky 4, he had that very passionate speech where he adored Rocky. And then it's like, wait, never mind. You can fight Ivan Drago. But one thing too, though, is just that a lot of people also forget that what led to the real final fight of Rocky 5 is when Tommy hit Paulie. Because Tommy was standing up for Rocky. Yeah, because Tommy was like, this guy took you in his own house, put you above his own son, and you're walking, disrespecting him and whatnot. And then he's like, you're a piece of trash. And he also tried to warn Rocky throughout the movie, like, hey, be careful with Tommy because he's Duke's sinking his claws into him. And then when Tommy hit Paulie said, hey, you should have left him in the street when you found him. And that's when Rocky got mad because Paulie was right. He realized Paulie was right the whole time. And then he says, you knocked him down, why don't you try knocking me down? So it's a little bit of a mixed bag with Paulie, but a lot of people can make the argument that even after Adrian passed away, and when Rocky was at his highs and lows, Paulie was kind of always there. So
yeah, his road dog in the end.
Yep,
that's true. So. Laura, what do you got for us?
Well, I guess I don't know enough to say anything about Paulie, but it sounds like he was protective of his sister, and was worried about Rocky dragging her, down and taking her down. And I guess that's the mark of a good brother, but to be abusive, it's not great. So I'm with Stryfe on this one. I mean, I don't know enough to say all that you guys can, but I know a little, and I'm gonna go with Stryfe, and it's a mixed bag. Things you should and shouldn't do, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Oh,
I'm gonna go on record and say he still gave me one of my favorite lines was when he told Adrian, he's like, "You're busted." I was,
I think one of my favorite quotes of his is "I don't sweat you." That's one of my kind of have this on the soundboard is the "I don't sweat you." So
he used that a lot too. So he was always bringing that up. He's like, "Oh, I'll sweat you." He's like, "What?" Yeah. So he would look at him. Oh man, Paulie's an interesting character. I got a good one. How important is Apollo Creed? There we go.
I have the perfect thing for this because this is something I plan on making a short someday.
Oh yeah.
As much as I hate Charlemagne the God,
from
the Breakfast Club, he made a very good point. The first 4 movies all revolve around Apollo because Apollo gave Rocky the shot. Apollo wanted the rematch, and another point I was going to bring up earlier was Rocky 2 has a lot of good duality. I did a video on Apollo Creed, so definitely check it out. About both Rocky and Apollo being 2 sides of the same coin. Rocky 3 is where Apollo trained Rocky, and Rocky 4 is where Rocky avenged Apollo. So that's kind of why sometimes 5 and Rocky Balboa seem, I wouldn't say weak, but weaker compared to those first 4 movies because Apollo was the centerpiece of those first 4 movies. And Creed also kind of, I did a Tommy Gunn video too. I'll also highly recommend checking this out. Creed was actually able to amend the mistakes of Rocky 5 because Rocky didn't want to train. He mentions Tommy Gunn very briefly. He says, because Adonis says, "I want you to train me." He's like, Rocky says, "I don't do that anymore," because that's clearly a jab at what happened with him and Tommy Gunn. But Apollo, a lot of people like to say, some Rocky fans included, that Adonis was Apollo's gift to Rocky beyond the grave because now Rocky still has a little bit of Apollo around, and that's kind of like, and you think about it too, like that whole friendship that they kind of formed from Rocky 2 to the Rocky 4, that's also still kind of the spirit of the Creed movies too. So yeah, very, very important. Probably one of the most important characters. And the thing is, Apollo was never really an antagonist either. Even as antagonistic as he tried to be in Rocky 2, he had the same motivation as Rocky had. He just wanted to know who was better.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to it. So very important to the franchise.
Like Vegeta and Goku.
Yep. Or Ryu and Ken. Yeah.
You know, in a way.
No, that's absolutely, yeah. Go for it,
Always
Rican.
trying to make each other better, you know? Like,
Yeah.
but it wound up like their competitive spirit just turned into like brotherly love for each other. That's what I love about those two. And you see that in the third one, which is why you like it so much, because they show a lot of that with them. You know, for your enemy to become your best bud, it's like that's a character arc in itself. So, but Apollo was a great character too, because he was the one running things. He was the champion at the time. You know, that without Apollo, there's no underdog story. You know, so like I said, every character in this saga is like, the more you dive in, that's when you know you got a good movie. You can kind of take any apple off the tree and it's nutritious, you know. It's like, man. So Apollo himself, I mean, come on, he's such a good enough character. They did a whole 3-movie spinoff with his son.
Yep.
You know, so at the same time, like, this is what good writing and having a good film and something that means something. It's important. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Lord.
I was just about to say that's a true testament on Sylvester Stallone and his writing, you know, and how good writers can really pull you in and make a story really come to life, and for years and years and years, and it's very thought out and very centric to your culture now. You know, Rocky is really huge, and it's only because of Sylvester Stallone's writing that we have this. And so I think we should acknowledge that he's a really good writer. You know, not just a good actor, but he's a really good writer.
I also want to make one point about Apollo too. This was a short I did a while back. So there's a very persistent Rocky theory out there, a fan theory rather, that because in Rocky, the original Rocky cut, Rocky 4 cut, even before Creed came out, hinted that Apollo won because Rocky Jr. says, "Hey, you know, where's that black eye coming from?" And so, you know, Rocky 4's timeline is kind of shaky as the Rocky anthology, but it's assumed to be right after that fight. So he's like, "Where'd you get that black eye?" He said, "From a friend gave it to me." And he's like, "Well, where'd you get the hat?" Same friend. So obviously it's you know, it's mentioning that Apollo won that fight. Right. So the fan theory is that because Apollo had won that fight, he was confident enough that they could have a third public pay-per-view fight, which is why he wanted to fight Ivan Drago, so he could prove, like, see, I can still go, I can still do these things. Right. Me and Rocky can have a third final decisive fight, make a whole bunch of money, and then now the world really knows who is the best out of all of us. And then a lot of people also like to add on to that theory that Rocky also may not have fought to the fullest in Rocky 3, like in the behind closed doors. It's because he didn't need to hurt Apollo. Right. Which is why, because you look at the comparison to the fight of Rocky 2, Rocky was like, "I'm not going down anymore. This guy's not going to thing." And you think back to the end of the movie where Rocky 2, Apollo, like, he looks over at Rocky getting up and he's like, "Oh my God, this guy is not going to stop unless one of us is dead." And that's why he just kind of plops back down like, "Okay, I'm done." Because, like, even though Apollo was the better fighter, Rocky had the better determination. Yeah. So a lot of people think, you know, had Ivan not injured Apollo, we would have seen a fourth on-screen fight but a third final decisive fight in pay-per-view. So it's kind of interesting to think about when you look at those scenes again. So
no, it makes sense. I mean, Eye of the Tiger, though, Rocky had that. He had that thing, man. He couldn't
edge. Yeah.
There was something about the Italian stallion. You couldn't. Once he turned that on.
Yep.
Wasn't stopping him, man. And that's how Chuck Wepner was. So Rocky's spirit comes from the Bayonne bleeder. You You know what I mean? And there's some controversy because a lot of people say that he stepped on his foot. He didn't actually
I've
hit
heard
him,
about that. Yeah.
you know? So it's not, you know, whether it was a clean hit or whatever, it was still a thing,
Yep.
you know? So, but the guy used to take a beating. And that's what he was famous for. The Bayonne bleeder, Chuck Wepner, used to just get his ass beat constantly, bleeding all over the place, and he would keep going and just keep going. So that's the spirit of Rocky. So that's what I appreciate about it, you know,
Sure.
and I love about it. So
No.
definitely hit that Chuck Wepner search bar, you know.
Well, since you're talking about Chuck Wepner, I'll jump in real quick and say, guys, if you don't know, there is a movie about Chuck Wepner that they did where Liv Schreiber played Chuck Wepner.
Yep.
And they talk about the whole kind of deal with him and Stallone and everything like that. And how Chuck Wepner, a little bit of his thoughts of what he thought kind of came out in the movie. So, you know, check it out. I saw it. It was cool, you know.
Definitely.
You like some cocaine. That's all I got to say about that. But you know,
he was a nut, bro.
No, and I guess I have to answer about Apollo. And Laura, did you have anything you wanted to add about Apollo or anything?
No, I was going to say that every hero needs the villain, if you will, to make him kind of shine more. So maybe they play off of each other so that they both equally shine. Even though Rocky, you know, the movie is called Rocky, but you have this character that kind of making him shine. That makes sense? Kind of bringing him out, you know, bringing his strengths and its attributes out, even though he's not trying to do that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No, I agree.
Like Batman and Joker, they can't be great without each other.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say. Yep.
No,
Rick, and you always say things so well.
I got you. Appreciate
that. I give a big up for Apollo Creed, and to be able to meet Apollo Creed. He is fantastic. He was just a really great character. He was funny. Carl Weathers doesn't get enough credit for, even outside of Rocky, just how funny and leading man quality he had to do a lot of things. You know, everybody thinks Rocky, or unfortunately everybody thinks Action Jackson, and they think that that's it. I'm old enough to remember Action Jackson, barbecue, how do you like your ribs, and all that good stuff. You know, but look at him in Predator. You know, look at Carl Weathers.
You know,
I forgot. Even Happy Gilmore.
Yeah. Oh yeah, with the missing
hand. But like that also played into how humorous he was though too.
Yeah.
I kind of argue he's the leading man in that too.
Yeah, Arrested Development. Yeah. Remember that with the ham bone? Yeah. Now you get that bone and you get a stew going, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "Give me that bone," and he's like, "Wait, no, don't throw that away. You could save that, and you could do that." Oh gosh. So he was so good at that. So we all love Apollo Creed, and we all love Carl Weathers.
Salute.
You know,
salute to Carl Weathers.
Definitely. Who do you think Rocky's greatest opponent was?
Oh, the Russian.
Ivan Drago? Dolph Lundgren? I must break you. Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. When he went and trained in Russia, that whole arc in the story, loved it.
I must break you.
Yeah. But Dolph Lundgren's great in his own right too.
Oh yeah, love Dolph Lundgren.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that part. I mean, who else will you have play that part?
Nobody.
Coming out like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just
Van Damme played a similar part years before that in a movie called No Retreat, No Surrender.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he was a Russian bad guy. And you got to see him kind of do something similar to that. And he was cool in that part. He was a bad guy you totally loved to hate. You know, he had it down. He wore a white suit. Beat you up with fancy white shoes. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that one. I did watch
send
the
it to you.
Showdown in Little Tokyo though the other day, like you
Oh, you
said.
did?
Movie, bro.
Okay,
That
I'll send you No
great
Retreat, No Surrender.
movie.
I'm glad
Wow.
you saw that.
While we're on Dolph Lundgren, Drew's got some hits. I mean, I love the old school Punisher too. When he played the Punisher, I watch it for nostalgia reasons sometimes. So, Showdown in Little Tokyo was great.
There you go.
That was great.
And
That was,
Brandon Lee.
I
How was
had
Brandon?
never seen it, so it was great. But yeah, shout to Dolph Lundgren too.
Hey, Brandon Lee was fantastic in Showdown Little Tokyo. You really got to see him kind of come out and go, oh man, this guy, outside of being the son of Bruce Lee, you kind of got to see him. This is way before The Crow. This is before Rapid Fire. So you got to see what Brandon had, and you could see the talent and Launch Out and Dolph Lundgren and him together. The buddy cop thing, they were both fantastic because they were both martial artists. So not one outshined the other, kind of a thing. They both brought different styles. Dolph Lundgren came with the Kyokushin karate style. Brandon Lee came from Muay Thai, Wing Chun, and Jeet Kune Do. So you saw a lot of that come out in him. So it was they complemented each other in that, which is cool. Real quick about Dolph Lundgren. Dolph Lundgren was bare knuckle world champion for Kyokushin karate. And if you've never seen him compete, you can see the videos on YouTube. But I'm telling you, they are lethal as heck when you watch Dolph Lundgren. He's no joke. I mean, he's stomping people in the crotch and everything. Like he is just, he's tossing people around. He's hitting them like,
he's up there too, top 10 action stars of the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's up there. He didn't get enough credit, but he was one of them. And the thing about it was he could destroy a lot of them realistically because he did stop Stallone's heart in Rocky IV. Yep. You guys know about that when he hit him because Stallone told him to hit him real good, like right here, and give me everything you got. He said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, hit me right here and give me."
Well, yeah, I read that when I was reading about Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, I read that he got injured pretty good.
He could have died right there. Yeah, it was bad, and it was Stallone's fault because Stallone shouldn't have asked him to do that. He could have said, just give me a little bit. He didn't have to say, give me everything you got and don't hold back and that whole thing. Because I mean, Dolph, you talk a minute long enough, I guess he's going to give you what you want. Because this is your movie, so okay, here we go. And out came that hand. Dolph Lundgren's also known for ice breaking too. He does big giant shells of ice. Oh yeah. He's a very strong guy. Athletic as all get out. He sits at 6'6", almost 6'7", and he holds a chemical engineering degree from MIT.
Whoa!
So he break your bones like Ice Cube, and then
hit you with the intellectual knowledge of a chemist. Yeah, and he speaks English, his native language, which he's from Sweden. He also speaks Japanese fluently, and I mean, come on, what can I say? So when you see him down a Little Tokyo, he's actually speaking Japanese and actually understanding.
Oh yeah, it was great. I love the Expendable movies because like Sly went and got all his boys. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
great. It's not senseless action. So I like those movies too. But keep going through the shot.
Stryfe, what do you got?
All right, I'm gonna drop 2 hot takes on you, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Hot take. As much as I love Rocky IV, it's a good 80s movie, but not a good Rocky movie. Only because 30% of the film is montage.
That's true.
But I will, however, though, the director's cut, if you'd mix that with the original cut, it seems a lot more like a Rocky movie. But I will still say Rocky IV is still one of my favorites.
Right.
So it's a toss-up between Ivan Drago and Clubber Lang, but I'm going to argue Clubber Lang here for Clubber Lang is the only opponent Rocky had to drop with in early rounds. He's the only opponent that he did not have a full 12 or 15 round fight with because he fought Rocky and Apollo to the distance. Or excuse me, I'm sorry. In Rocky 1 and 2, he fought Apollo. He went full rounds with Ivan, I mean, Tommy obviously doesn't count because it was a street fight. But he went full rounds with Mason, but he had to change his entire style to defeat Clubber.
Yeah, he did.
Not to mention, that's even, and if you rewatch Rocky 3 and watch any of Clubber's fights, Clubber didn't even have technique. He was just throwing hooks like no matter what, but Rocky still had to adapt to that. And I think if Rocky 4, Rocky fought Clubber Lang, then obviously I think he would still win. But a lot of people seem to, and that's kind of why I did my whole video of why Clubber Lang is dangerous. Because not a lot of people talked about the fact that Clubber Lang was the first opponent to force Rocky to change his entire style.
Yeah, and he beat him.
Yep, exactly.
And took the belt. So I mean, that's the thing. And for those of you guys that don't know, everybody should know by now, Clubber Lang was played by the introduction of the legendary Mr. T.
Exactly.
Mr. T was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, woman. Yeah, that's my part.
Yeah.
Hey, woman. Hey, woman. Yeah.
But yeah, you can easily argue Ivan or Clubber. I would say they're kind of equal of being the toughest opponent Rocky had. So.
Yeah, I would say that. Laura, what do you got for us?
Again, I don't know enough, but I know who Mr. T is. And I think, yes. I pity the fool. And I don't know again much about him, but I know he. I remember seeing him. I forget what it is now, but because of my memory, I had a stroke, and so my memory is not the greatest. But I've always really liked Mr. T, and I pity the fool. I love that line, and he has
18?
a special. Huh?
Remember 18?
Yeah, he was
18.
18.
That's what it was, I think. And so he's always had a special place in my heart because I just liked his look and the mohawk and I liked Mr. T. I always liked him. So yeah.
I got a couple of his comics. There was a couple like comics that leaked out back then with him
That's
on the
cool.
cover. They're pretty hilarious.
That's cool.
Mr. T was an American icon, and he told you to treat your mother right?
Yep,
You guys remember that?
I remember that. Yeah.
The high shorts on, mother. There is no other. Yeah. I was like, gosh.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
In real life, he is a really good dude.
I feel like he was Macho Man before Macho Man. You know what I mean?
That's true. My brother-in-law actually got to hang out with him, and I said, "Well, what was he like?" And he said, "Oh, he was like he talked in the third person the whole time. It was great. He's like he was really cool. He's like, Mr. T wants to give you a gift, and no, Mr. T got this for you. So Mr. T wants you to take this home. He was just like that the whole time. And I was like, that's great.
He's the whole entity.
He is. So you guys are waiting for mine, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's see if we can get this right over here. Here we go.
Don't get us something, no statue. Give them guts. I told you I wasn't going away. You got your shot. Now give me mine. Check for man. I ain't going nowhere. Why don't you tell all these nice folks why you been ducking me? Politics, man. You want to keep me down. I don't want a man like me to have the title because I'm not a puppet like your fool up there. You got a big mouth, Yeah, somebody close it. No man don't want to come to me. Then I come to you people lay out the truth. I am ranked number one. That means I'm the best. But this bomb been taking the easy matches. Fight another bomb. I'm telling you and everybody here. I'll fight anywhere, anytime.
He's the most vile villain.
Dance for yo. Talk shit,
What?
Disgrace to this sport.
Shut up, old man. Tell them where to come from. Grab on your family doing real nice, ain't it? You call yourself a fighter? Prove it now. Give me that same chance. Don't even ducking this disgrace. If you ain't no coward, why don't he fight me then? I can't listen anymore. To tell you anytime.
What you're right. You don't get no shot.
What are you doing? I want to fight this guy.
You got to fight him without me.
What are you saying?
It's finished. Yes, I'm finished. I don't want no more. I don't want no more. You understand?
Are
Here we go.
Hey, woman. Hey, woman. Listen here.
Hey, woman.
This old man ain't got no heart. Maybe you like to see a real man. I bet you stay up late every night dreaming of a real man, don't you? I'll tell you what. Bring your pretty little self over to my apartment tonight, and I'll show you a real man.
Yeah. Vile, very vile. Easily the most vile of all the Rocky antagonists.
So I had to play the introduction of Clubber Lang that we needed, that made us all go, whoa, look at that guy. Mr. T doing what he does best, talking trash, laying down how tough he is, because he, in real life, he was super strong. So I got to give it to my guy, Clubber Lang. He was the best Rocky villain. He's the guy that really challenged Rocky. Rocky lost to him. Rocky had to dig deep, take two different styles, work with Apollo Creed to dig deep in the basement. Mickey died, so Mickey could not train him. Let me get that straight. He did train him, but it wasn't the same. Rocky was making a mockery out of it because they were thinking, oh, this is the last fight I'm going to do, so it doesn't really matter. So they were doing a little silly stuff and, having people come in and watch Rocky train, and it wasn't really training. And so Clubber slaughtered him, so Rocky had to really dig deep and really do something special to deal with Clubber, and like you said, he did have to put him away quick because there was no way, he had to get him tired, and he had to really, really, really work on Clubber, because Clubber he was strong, he was quick, he was fast, and he used to go a lot. So when he hits you, so you can't beat that. And that was the thing. Clubber Lang was the best guy Rocky ever fought, and Rocky really had to dig deep to deal with this guy. And he would not leave Rocky alone, and that was the thing about him. And he looked intimidating as all get out too. Ivan Drago had like the dead face, he had been dead for like a couple years when he came out. So that was scary. But, the thing about Clubber was like Clubber would talk trash so bad to you. Like, it's like at those moments right before you fight, he always gave that last word before he got away from you. So he scared you a little bit more before you fought him. So you went in there with your head messed up already, Yeah.
I also want to drop another fan theory. I don't know if you guys have heard this one. So in Rocky 2, when Apollo's reading of those letters, there's a certain letter that it says, hey, you're a disgrace for people because you carried that bum 15 rounds.
Yes.
A lot of people think that Clubber Lang wrote that letter, but here's why. That would also explain why Clubber was so disrespectful to Apollo before Rocky's first and second fight. He says, I don't want to shake your hand, you has been. And he's like, hey, once you stay over there, because you'll be next too. So it's, I don't know if that's true or not, but it does kind of make sense if you think about it. So
yeah, that I could see that working. I'm with you on Stryfe. I'm thinking about that. I'm going, you know what? That could really work, because he did have such a disrespect for Apollo, and he's like, I don't need no has been in my corner. And I was like,
exactly.
Oh, and he's coming over to him cool, like, oh, okay, good luck to you, shaking his hand, smiling, everything. He's like, needs no has been in my corner. I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. So he had zero respect for Apollo. So Laura, what are you thinking? I know you haven't seen all the movies, but I know you said, the greatest villain, but right now you can go with Apollo, right? But based upon what we said, this is Lore Part 2, based upon what we said about some of these other rivals going on, do you have a different idea, a little bit of what Rocky had to face later on?
I would say the clever, he sounded really, especially when you played that clip, he sounded like not somebody you want to fight or deal with, or, and so I'm going to go with Clever Lang. Just because he sounds like you're like, oh yeah, I want 500 miles away from that dude,
He's pretty rough.
And so I'm gonna go based on what you guys said. I'm gonna say him, But again, I love Mr. T. So it's like, I don't know.
He's a good dude, you know. Do you guys know how he discovered Mr. T? You guys know the story about that? Okay, so what happened was there used to be this bodyguard, like this TV show about the toughest guy, like the tough show back in the day, right? And Mr. T showed up and he was a bodyguard at a lot of clubs and stuff like that. And he won the contest and he like ripped the door. I remember he ripped like this chain door and everybody saw him and he came out and he had this large persona and Sylvester saw him and said, you know, that's the guy. And it also launched the career of one Hulk Hogan. Mm-hmm. Hulk Hogan's career was launched from Rocky 3. That's what really made him larger than life, because originally they wanted Andre the Giant, but he wasn't interested. All the wrestlers that were really big, they were putting it out there and nobody came to the rehearsals or the auditions for Rocky 3. And he was the only one that showed up and it launched out his career. So then, and everybody was like, oh, Hulkamania. It was like, you know what? You could have been Hulkamania if you had showed up, maybe. And because then after that, that's when they had the whole thing where, you know, Mr. T showed up with Hulk Hogan a lot. And they actually had that WrestleMania where he had to box Roddy Piper. They did a whole thing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was a huge sensation when that happened. And Mr. T brought Hulk Hogan on the A-Team. See? Mm-hmm. So it launched all over the place. So that's just a quick thing, guys. And let's see. What else do I have in this little green book of mine?
So I got time for one more question. We actually have to make this a part 2 for this one.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I don't want to leave you hanging over too soon. So let me get the best question out of here. I'm going to throw it to you guys and you pick which best question. And that's where we'll go. And then we're going to let Stryfe do his thing because he must go slay the trolls and be Stryfe the Warrior. What do we got? Let me see. We got who is Creed's greatest opponent. We got what's the future of the franchise. Who was the best trainer? And everyone's opinion on who won that secret fight. Now, that's a great one, but Laura hasn't seen Rocky 3. So I don't know if we could get into that one, but I just threw it out there. So which question do you think we should go with, boys and girls?
I'll let Rican pick.
Okay. Say them again.
Who is Creed's greatest opponent? What's the future of the franchise? Who's the best trainer? What do you think?
Oh, future of the franchise is interesting. Where do we go from here, right? What was the last one?
The longest answer. Okay. But you picked it, and I'm going to go. Rican's my guy, so go ahead, Rican. Kick us off. What do you think the future of the franchise is?
Well, there was nothing after Balboa, right? Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, you could count Creed. He's in it.
And it jumps to Creed. So I think the Creed stuff is done. And I don't think any of Rocky's kids, I think the franchise doesn't have much of a future. I mean, unless where do you really insert a spin-off? Or I feel like it'll be too fabricated. It'll be trying too hard. So that's why I picked future of the franchise, because I don't really think there is one. I mean, I think they kind of got everything they can out of it. I mean, can you really do a Cobra Kai on Rocky? And like, you know, Karate Kid was kind of in the same place and they kind of found a way to reinvigorate it. Like Rocky, maybe him starting the school, buying a gym, you know what I mean? Something like that, like a mentor type role. I think Sly can pull it off. Tulsa King, you know, he's already kind of doing the old gangster. Why doesn't he do like the old boxing coach, you know? And then maybe the show can be kind of centered around, you know, his kind of like students, you know, kind of like a Never Back Down, but with Sly, you know? So that would be my answer. I think if you were to do it, I would give him a whole school, you know, give him the restaurant back. And then, you know, he has this kid that works at the restaurant and, you know, or maybe, you know, tie them both in together. He has the school too. Either way, he's got to be a mentor. I'd love to see Rocky turn into Mick, basically.
Well, that's what he's doing essentially in Creed, is that he's Mickey. You know,
more of that would be great. I would definitely watch that.
well, he's the best part of Creed as far as I'm concerned, you know, seeing him, you know, when and that's why I didn't think the third was bad, but it was weird not having him around, you know, because of that whole fight with him and Irvin Winkler and the bunch, and Bob Chernoff and all that, you know, so that's why he wasn't in it. And I was like, great, you know, guys should have waited till you got him, because like you need that element, like, because then you saw him by himself, Adonis by himself, and it just didn't, and they couldn't even really mention Rocky, right, because of that whole thing. So it kind of offset the movie. So I was like, you guys should have waited. If it was going to be that deep in it, then you should have just waited, you know. So I was like, they got to do another one, you know, to basically, you know, put him back in it. But Rican's idea for the show, I'm feeling that. So Stryfe, what do you think?
So that's going to be kind of a multiple answer thing. So I'm going to talk about what we know that is being worked on or what's confirmed. So Creed 4 is definitely coming out. There's a Creed anime series that's on the way that Michael B. Jordan confirmed shortly after Creed 3's release. So we have that to look forward. And considering how well Terminator Zero did, I think there could be maybe some like a spin-off Creed anime that they're working on. Especially considering how well Creed 3 did as far as Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut. And of course, you know, we had the comic book, so maybe they'll have more coming out of that.
I don't know how well it did, but
I'm not sure about that either. I'd have to look. There's definitely things that are being worked on right now. What should happen? I know a Drago spinoff has been talked about for a very long time, and it could work given the fact that Adonis. So one of the things they cut out at the end of Creed 2, which they should have never cut out, was the deleted scene where Adonis and Victor bond because of both having to live under their father's shadow, with Ivan pressuring Victor to, like, hey, you got to do this for Russia, you got to do this for this, and of course Adonis with Apollo. And then this is after their second fight, where they kind of have a mutual understanding of like, hey, I know what it's like, you know, to be there. And there's no words exchanged, but Adonis actually forgives Ivan Drago too, with the look, and you can see like Ivan's shoulders kind of drop. So and that sets up why they're so friendly in Creed 3. So I think they could do a Drago spinoff. The problem is Stallone doesn't want that to happen, which to me I think is kind of a disservice considering how well Creed 2 was received as a love letter to Rocky 4, and how the director's cut also emphasized how well Rocky 4 was as a movie had they not cut out so many things. So I think they could make something work with the Drago spinoff. Now, here's something I wish that would happen, but it's probably not going to happen given what happened to Jonathan Majors. Had Jonathan Majors, you know, controversy not happened, in Creed 4, we could have seen a Drago versus Dane, which would have been the closest thing we would have seen to Clubber Lang versus Ivan Drago.
Yeah.
And had that not happened, I was very disappointed when all that stuff went down with Jonathan Majors. So had that not happened, we could have seen something like that too. I know also a lot of people also want to see a Clubber Lang son versus Creed son, but I feel like it's just a rehash of Creed 2. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the future of Creed. So
okay,
awesome,
Lady Laura, what do you got?
I don't know if they've done anything with Rocky's son. What's his name? Rocky Jr.?
Robert? Oh, okay. You need to watch the movies to kind of get a taste for him. I'll how would I say it real quickly? He's not interested.
that's sad.
That'd be cool.
Character's not interested.
Maybe that'd be the only way Rocky's son.
Yeah, he's more like Adrian than Rocky. Let me put it.
Okay.
He's more like Adrian than Rocky. He's a selfish Adrian. So he becomes a lawyer.
Well, I guess I would go with. I was listening to Rican, and I like what he said about maybe we've seen all there is to see. Maybe the story is complete. You know, maybe we've had the beginning and the end, and we have this entire story, and it was, again, beautifully written. So maybe we just put a stamp on it and say, we did it.
I'm cool with that. You guys cool with that?
I mean, I would just say she sparked a little idea too. If they were to do something about Rocky's son, I know the guy who played him in Rocky Balboa was very popular in This Is Us. So, I mean, for him to maybe be a sports agent and kind of honor his dad and kind of get into the boxing realm and show the office side of it, kind of like a Any Given Sunday type of realm. You know what I mean? Where it showed a lot of Cameron Diaz played the owner, Al Pacino. That's a great sport movie about sports. You know what I mean? So I think something like that, maybe with Rocky's son being a boxing promoter or getting back into it to honor his dad after his dad dies, to kind of maybe find the next Rocky, to honor his dad, something like that. They would have to really write something cool and like get in their bag and see if it can really come together. But so I'm like half and half of it, like leave it dead. It's done. Don't, mess with it too much. And then like, maybe it depends what they do, how they write it, how serious they take it. But I love the franchise too much to play around with it,
Yeah, that's true. The only thing I got, guys, left is Stryfe Rican. Did you guys see the unfinished deleted scene of Rocky and Drago fighting in Creed 2 in the hotel room, or the hotel lobby, I should say?
Hospital lobby. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, okay. So
I was kind of glad they cut it out. It would have been cool to see it, but I think it also would have taken a little bit too much from the story, I feel like. But I don't know. I think, but then again, too, also we were kind of seeing the behind the scenes cut of it, not the actual cut. So I'm kind of 50-50 on it personally.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to have seen what they do, because I felt like they needed to blow off some steam off of each other a little bit, since he shows up as like, I'm in the States and I'm going to do this fight like out of the blue, and it's kind of like there's still some bad blood, and he's like, oh, why don't you have a picture up of me? And that's a good picture right there and all that stuff. I was like, Rocky should slap him. I'm telling you. Just one good one.
Yeah.
Just one good one.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, Stryfe, how much time you got with us, man?
I got to bounce. I actually stayed overtime. So,
shoot. Well, let's sum this up and get you going. I don't want to keep you. Guys, Rocky Balboa Hangout. It was fantastic. It was great. We all dressed up and represented Rocky here. We had a good time. I'm pretty sure we had a great time. Our guest Stryfe, I would like to think he has a good time.
Oh, of course.
We tried to do that. So we want to give a shout out to Stryfe. Thank you so much for coming. Sorry we kept you over.
Oh, it's okay.
Get out here as fast as we can. Yeah. So here we go. I'm Drew Danger, Rican Ranger, and Lady Laura, and our special guest Stryfe, and we are Knights of the Dragon. I don't care what Stryfe says. He's part of the Knights of the Dragon team. You have to take it. You have to take it.
I guess so.
So that's just what it's going to be, guys. So what's going to happen, guys? Next time, will Drew Danger. Well, honestly, guys, I don't know what I'm going to do next time. But will Rican Ranger be ready for Knights of the Ninjetti? I don't know. We'll see. Lady Laura, is she going to host the next show and do a morph? I think she should. And Stryfe, will you be back next time?
Oh, we definitely have to do a part 2 for Rocky. There's so much we haven't got into. So
we got part 2. So
Cobra Kai too. We need some Cobra Kai in there.
We need Cobra Kai. Put in the comments. Let us know what you want to see. I want to get to this Terminator show because I didn't finish it, but I got some words for that show. So same hangout time with Knights of the Dragon. Same time, same channel. Rocky Balboa, Apollo Creed, out. For Mr. T. There you go.
There you go. We pity the fool.